There we go. There we go. Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller, my co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network, Kyle Larson in Victory Lane at Martinsville Speedway in let's call it a disappointing race. But Bud, we got a lot to unpack this past weekend. A lot of things happened, including the truck race that our boy Steven Malazzi ran, the Stacking Dennys 22 Ford, but more importantly, Kyle Kirkwood, your boy, gets the win, gets you some money in your pocket. Let's go ahead. Let's kick off. Let's start first with that. Let's talk about Kyle Kirkwood. Let's talk about IndyCar. I know this is a NASCAR podcast, but man, if anybody follows you on Twitter, they saw your betting slip on Mr. Kirkwood here. You've always said you're always gonna bet on him, especially before he gets that first win. So, how was Long Beach? I know you were there. You were there for the race. You were there for the race weekend. You met him. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was a perfect weekend as far as the weather. Got a little bit of sun, but not too much. First day I didn't sunscreen. Second and third day I sunscreened. Got to meet Kyle on Friday. Just kind of, we've got paddock passes, and I was walking through and saw Romain Grosjean, who's a driver for Andretti Autosport, former Formula One driver. He was really popular, so there's a lot of people around there. And then saw Colton Herta. So I actually took a picture with Colton Herta. I haven't posted that one yet. And it was funny. I was like, good luck this weekend, Colton. He was like, oh, thanks, man. And I was like, also make sure to tell Kyle, his number one fan is here. I'd love to see him or something. And he like rolls his eyes, like in a sarcastic way, not like F this guy or anything. So he takes pictures with me. It was pretty cool. But, and then saw Devlin DeFrancesco walk by. So it was like the first three of the four Andretti Autosports drivers. I'm like, the only one we haven't seen is Kyle. Like, come on. And then, so we're just hanging out for about 15 minutes. All of a sudden, I turn around, instantly see him, and he's walking right towards me. Like, and I go, oh my God, Kyle. And he's like, oh my God. And he knew exactly who I was instantly. So it was pretty funny. So got to talk with him for a little bit. Had him send my girlfriend a video because she wasn't able to come, but he was very kind to do that. And yeah, that was Friday pretty much. Saturday was qualifying. He puts it on the pole, and baby, when he got that pole, I knew he was going to be. I set the over-under on what his opening odds would be, like his post-qualifying opening odds would be for the race win. Since he got bet, like when he opened at Caesars at 20-1, he got bet down to about 12-1, I think, at Caesars and 15 at some other places. So I said, well, probably like 8-1 or something, right? Like he's been opening longer than a lot of the other favorites who have always had speed, and that's because last year Kyle Kirkwood ran for a small team. This year he's on one of the best teams in all of IndyCar, Andretti Autosport. Probably a step down from Team Penske, probably a step down from Chip Ganassi, but right in that 1B tier, I guess you could call it, with Arrow McLaren as well. There's four really, really dominant teams in IndyCar this year. So there's just no way he should have been 20-1, especially when you consider Andretti Autosport won 3 of the last 4 Long Beach races, and the one they didn't win, Romain Grosjean finished second, and Colton Herta actually had the car to beat that race. He just had really bad pit stops and pit strategy. So they've had the dominant car each of the last 4 Long Beach races. 2 of those won by Alexander Rossi, who's in the 27 car, which Kyle Kirkwood took over. So they had won half of the last 4 Long Beach races, the number 27 car had. And then you look Kyle Kirkwood last year, his best finishing result was at Long Beach. So it just all made sense to bet him 20-1. Now I was going to bet him 20-1 at every road course because I knew, right, to make it a good bet, all he has to do is win 1 in 21 times to break even, or 1 in 20 to make profit at 20-1. Well, he's had 20 career races total. That includes ovals, where I'm not really betting him to win. Certain road courses where maybe his odds were too short, or he didn't show enough speed with the Foyt car. So I think I've bet him at all but maybe 1 or 2 of the road courses. So that ends up being about, of the 20 races at in his career, about 13 or 14 tries I've bet him at. And a lot of those were at longer odds, 50, 60, 80, 100 to 1 to win, 300 to 1 to win in the very first race last year. So got it in good. He got the job done. There was no shortage of scary moments. Literally, lap 1, turn 1, he and Marcus Ericsson rubbed tires, the outside pole sitter. Uh, then after a restart, there was so Scott Dixon crashed on lap 20 after a battle with Pato O'Ward. Well, then O'Ward dive bombed. So what happened? There was a stack up in front of Kyle Kirkwood. There was a lapped car and then a car that stayed out and didn't pit that was slower, stacked up in front of Kyle Kirkwood. He actually made contact with the guy who stayed out, who was the leader, but got around him. It was like very light, minor contact. And then O'Ward tried to dive bomb him and touched him. So he had like 3 contact incidents in the first 21 laps of the race or something like that. And that allowed Joseph Newgarden to get by him. Joseph Newgarden went on the softer tire, which wore a lot quicker, so they were really fast for about 10, 15 laps, and then they'd wear off. So Kyle knew it was okay if Newgarden was going to pass him, because that was very possible on the softer tire while Kirkwood was on the harder tire. But Kirkwood, once that 15-lap mark came, he was right back on Newgarden's gearbox. And then Newgarden had to pit earlier to get off the worn-out tire, so he pitted. And from there, Kyle Kirkwood laid down like 2 qualifying laps to gap Newgarden. Perfect pit stop by the team. He comes out not only ahead of Newgarden, but Romain Grosjean also leapfrogged Newgarden. He comes out a couple seconds ahead of Romain Grosjean, and then from there, it's just hope no chaos ensues, and they went green to the end, and he held his spot. So, I hope people rode the Kirkwood bandwagon with me, because it's one of those things where you can say, bet this guy every single time, it's value. But then after 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and he doesn't win, people start hopping off the bandwagon. I'm like, but we got to get to the large enough sample size. Plus, we also have to get to where now he's with Andretti, not with backmarker team, where he should be 80-1. Now he should be. I mean, he should have been at longest 12-1. I was like, maybe I'd hesitate at 12-1, but probably would still bet it. But now he's probably never going to be double digits on road, or if he is, it's going to be 10-1, I would think, at road and street courses. So I'll be very curious where he opens next week for Barber, which is another road course. So not this coming weekend, but the following weekend at Alabama. I wonder if he's going to open under 10-1. He probably should.
Yeah, I know. I messaged you about that last week, and you said, basically bet him 12-1 wherever. And I stupidly, I didn't intentionally jump off the bandwagon, but I was so busy last week, I completely forgot to bet. And then once he was on the pole and then odds came back out, he was 4-1, and I was like, well, I should just bet him just because. And then I forgot again, and then I saw him won. So I honestly thought I could have been a jinx. So that's another reason I didn't bet. I'm just going to throw that out there and say that might be a reason. But no, if anybody's been listening to this podcast for very long or followed you on Twitter for very long, they know you always talk about Kyle Kirkwood, and we knew it was going to be big the first time he won, and that was definitely. And for you to be there and see that happen is just.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, I was sitting in.
Could you have had a better weekend? To be honest,
no, I was sitting in grandstand 27, which of course is his number, which was basically right across from the start-finish line. It was just off to my left there. So I got to see him lead the field to green. I got to see him cross the finish line first. It's my first IndyCar race I've been to since 2019, which was Long Beach then as well. My dog is named LB. He won in LB, Long Beach. We're sponsored by Luva Bella LB. So everything came together, and it was the first race I got to see him race in IndyCar. Now, funny enough, I've actually seen him race 4 times in person. In 2018, I went to a couple races as well, and he was racing in the bottom rung of the road to Indy. So there's like AAA baseball, AA baseball, single A baseball, and then like Major League Baseball. He was in like the single A baseball of the road to Indy, and he won all 3 races I saw him race in 2018 as well. So 100% win rate when I watch Kyle Kirkwood race in person.
That's awesome. We're going to have to go to more races, I believe.
Yeah, I think there may be something in the works there. I don't know. I have a feeling something may be in the works.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, that'll be fun.
And then to have him tweet about it, that was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds pretty wild.
Yeah, for those of you listening or watching that didn't see Nick's bet slip there, nice little, what was it, $25,000 win for you there?
Yeah.
Casual 25,000 win on the IndyCar race.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't ordinarily bet that large, but there are a few factors in play. One, the odds were good. Like 20 he shouldn't have been 21, as we said. So it's a pretty big edge there. Two, just knowing everything about Andretti's history there, especially in recent years, the last 4 years, how they've had the dominant car every year, it seemed even 12-1 was, like I said, possibly a little too long. Three, his best finish coming at Long Beach last year, took let's call it what it is, a shitbox car, and put it in 10th. His best finish of the year. And four, I was on vacation and I had a $40 round trip flight and I got to stay for free somewhere. So that was my vacation money instead, because I didn't spend money elsewhere. I mean, I guess I spent on the race tickets and the paddock tickets, but that wasn't much at all. So I was like, that's going to be my vacation fund, right? Is like,
Yeah.
if I lose it, it doesn't matter. That because most people will take $1,000-$2,000 vacations. Well, I'd spent not even $200 on the whole thing so far. So it's like, that's my vacation fund. So that's why I'm betting extra large this time.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Great to see that hit. But yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
fun to
there was
see how
another.
many.
I was gonna say, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There's another great part of the whole weekend too, because Friday I was doing double duty with, trying to hang out with Kyle Kirkwood and trying to monitor the Stacking Dennys truck.
Yeah, so that's what we were going to get into next. So yeah, I was obviously at Martinsville this past weekend for the race that very interesting truck race. I'll say that, with all the rain and all the rain tires and everything else. But dude, that truck, that Stacking Denny's truck, was even sexier in person. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
yeah, I'm sure. I am
And
sure. It looked
that
good.
and it did. It looked so good. Like, not even being biased, but also being a little biased. That truck was sexy as hell. And it was literally like a dream come true, because like when I go to races, or when I go to races, like, I don't have a favorite driver. Like, I'm always just watching the race, and it was such a different experience. One, to be in the pit area, in the garage area, and just being able to do that. That was wild to me. I've never done that before. Like, I've had, like, pit passes at Michigan, but that's completely different than this. One of my best friends was there with me. We had an absolute blast, just casually walking around. Like I don't really get starstruck, but we were just standing around, like Ross Chastain walked in front of me, and I was like, "Hey, Ross." He's like, "Hey," and I was like, "That was weird." And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, my buddy tapped me on the shoulder, and he goes, "That's Haley Deegan." And I was like, "Oh God!" Like, that was the first time I got, like, I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
man," just because. And so that was just cool. It was cool to be at Martinsville. I've never been there before. I don't even think I've ever been to Virginia before. Um, but that was a fun, little eight
Oh.
hour drive. Nothing too awful. Uh, Dude, great views. Holy crap.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I'd go
Oh
back to
yeah.
Virginia in a heartbeat.
Yes, sir.
So much better than Ohio as far as views go. But yeah, the race was it was fun. It was fun watching Malazzi get better as the day went on. And I wish that
Yes.
that entire race would have just stayed on the same tire, or they stayed on if they would have stayed on the rain tires, or whatever, because you could see, like, in practice he was like, I think a lot of people forgot, like, a lot of people that were talking shit or whatever over after the race, which, by the way, like, just to clear that up, does anybody think does any person think that we believe that he was going to win that race, or that he himself believed that he was going to win that race? Like,
No.
let's get real, people. We know what we were getting into. We were having so much fun with this. Like, yes,
Yes.
we're betting him at 1,000 to 1 or whatever, 5,000 to
10,000.
one or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, for fun. Like, this is all just complete fun. Like, this is
Exactly.
why we did this. Like,
Hmm.
and that was one of the first questions I got when we. Sorry, I'm for people watching on YouTube. I'm not in my normal chair or anything. I'm on my couch, so camera's gonna move around a little bit. But um, yeah, like, it was awesome to not have any expectations and just watch, a driver that never raced at Martinsville before learn the track and get better. And you could see it, when the race started. He started, what, second to last, and then
Hmm.
within, like, the first lap, I think he was significantly there. There was a big gap from the field to him, and then as after 10, 15 laps, you could see him getting better. Like, this was the coolest thing to me because I'm sitting there, specifically watching that truck. I don't care about any other trucks in the field. And you can just watch getting faster. I think he passed like three trucks on that first run before that first caution came out.
Yeah.
So that was just awesome to see. But yeah, the people that like I don't know, like obviously you're gonna have people talk shit, but you have to remember, like we knew what we were expecting going into this race. It's not like we were expecting anything major. Like, would have been cool. Do I think if the tires, like if it would have been a normal race and a full race and long runs, do I think that he probably could have finished upper 30s, maybe even top 30 with a little bit of chaos? Absolutely. But
Hmm.
at the same time, like I know what we were getting into, and it
Yeah.
was still just I will literally say that was a once in a lifetime kind of experience. Like I don't think I'm going to experience that again. But it was wild. It was awesome, and the truck looked so damn good.
Oh yeah. No, it was. I could tell. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I could tell from practice times, qualifying time, and then watching the race. I could tell he was improving throughout the weekend, and that's all we want to do.
Hmm.
He hadn't been on track in 9 months, so
Hmm.
he just needed track time. And once he got the track time, he made some passes. He got up to 32nd, I think, at one point, like you said. And unfortunately, there was that battery issue, but that's not in his control. That's just the thing that happens. And the team did a very good job. Thank you to AM Racing. Thank you to Rayoon Brothers Racing for helping Malazzi live his dream. And the pit crew and all the guys that work behind the wall for working with Malazzi that weekend. We have you to thank as well. Also, of course, to the listeners that helped make this happen, the Stacking Dennys listeners, you helped a kid live his dream, and he brought it home in one piece. He didn't wreck the truck. He'll probably get
Yeah.
another opportunity, I would think. So that's huge, and he drove very professionally and made passes, and just very happy that it got better throughout the week. It sucks the circumstances with the rain and all the calls that NASCAR made or didn't make. That's, again, another thing that's out of Malazzi's control. But for the hand he was dealt, he did a very, very good job. I know you and I are both super proud.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it was just an awesome experience. And yeah, I can't thank everybody enough for everybody involved there that made that possible. Especially all the
Yeah,
listeners and everything.
Malazzi had a bit of a viral tweet after that.
Yeah.
It was just, if you ever wanted, it's like, I'm reading it basically word for word. If you've ever wondered what it's like being a small time racing driver, yesterday I drove to Martinsville Speedway at 7 a.m. I raced in the truck race for AM Racing, drove myself back to my apartment, got back home around 3 a.m. Now I'm serving at Outback. And funny story, I went to Outback earlier this past week, before the week leading up to Martinsville. So it just seems like I didn't even know that he worked at Outback, honestly. So it just seems like a match made in heaven there. And now it's like, we're trying to get that Outback sponsorship.
That'd be awesome too.
Yeah, that has
Hopefully he can.
147,000 views, his tweet does, and 1,600
Oh my.
likes, 200 retweets. So his tweet went super viral. But
Yeah, for
that
someone that
that gets our truck
a
more
week
exposure.
a week ago, I think he had like 500 followers. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's definitely viral for an account that size. It's just
Definitely.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
So my favorite driver and my favorite driver. So Malazzi and Kirkwood. Kirkwood 1A, Malazzi 1B is what I've told him. But I just need to meet my other favorite driver now, Stephen Malazzi. I've never actually met him in person, but I know I'll get to at some point, probably, hopefully this year. Get to meet Stephen, hang out with him, give him a big old hug, because he did super awesome. Oh, I did forget to mention, after Kyle Kirkwood put it on the poll, he came back and he was signing all these autographs, and like all these kids rush up to him. It was really cute. I make sure to get a good picture. And at the end, like, I didn't want to butt in because I'd already gotten my chance to like talk to him, say hi or whatever. So I didn't want to butt in. I didn't want to cut in front of any kids. Wanted to let everybody else get their chance because I obviously already had my chance with Kyle, and I knew I would have many more. He starts walking around. I'm like, Kyle. He turns around and he's like, oh. And he like walks back towards me and fist bump. And I'm like, good job, dude. And he's like, we got it.
it's
So that
awesome.
was pretty cool. And then the
Awesome.
day of the race, they all like so they announce the starting lineup and they all go on the back of the pickup trucks in like one truck per driver, and they do a lap around the track. And when he got back, because like I was like there's pit road exit and they go all the way around. And I'm just past pit road entrance, so goes by and I'm the like literally the only person all weekend I saw with a Kyle Kirkwood shirt all 3 days was me. So and I only wore it on Sunday. So I like stand up in the grandstands. I'm like, go Kyle. He's waving and then he sees me. He's like, yeah. And then after the race, I only got to briefly see him because obviously he's doing all the winter interviews and drinking champagne, podium celebration, and they're wheeling him back towards the media center on a cart. And so they're like beeping and there's a big old crowd, and I'm just like, good job, Kyle. He gives me a little nod, I guess, if you will. But so those are my interactions. It was like the first time I got to meet. It's like I've been a big Jeff Gordon fan, but I never got to like meet him. And then Greg Moore for IndyCar was my other like racing hero. So I've had like 3 like racing heroes in my life. 4 now with Malazzi, but yeah. So it was cool to actually finally meet a racing hero of mine, and it's definitely an experience I'll take with me forever, like forever ever. And then he wins the race, like the first one I get to see him in the top level, because I only like backtracked like what are the races I'd been to and realized I'd seen him in 3 other races and he won all 3 of those. But like I didn't know who he was then. I mean, I kind of did because I watched those races and stuff and he won, but it wasn't like at that moment in time Kyle Kirkwood was going to be the superstar that he was because we didn't know. That was 2018. So, he was 18, 19 years old at that time. 19 years old, I guess. So, it's just one of those things where it was like, the first time I ever got to. Long Beach is, aside from the Indy 500, it is the biggest race on the IndyCar schedule. So it's an IndyCar crown jewel. It's like when we talk about NASCAR crown jewels, there's the Daytona 500. Well, the second most prestigious one is probably either the Southern 500 or the Coca-Cola 600 or maybe the Bristol Night Race. Those are kind of like the NASCAR majors. Long Beach is an IndyCar major. So if you're not winning the Indy 500, that's the next one you want to win.
Hmm. I didn't realize that. Like I said, or like I've said before, I don't really follow IndyCar that much. So that's awesome, though.
Great race, absolutely good race. That was like IndyCar is the best racing product. IndyCar and Xfinity series are the 2 best racing products on the planet right now.
Hmm.
In my opinion, I mean sports cars too. Like IMSA is a pretty good one too, but for me, it's IndyCar number 1 and Xfinity number 2 as far as like the quality of the racing.
Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned your shirt and how you were the only one with Kyle Kirkwood. For those that did not see our tweets, you can get Stephen Malazzi and Stacking Dennys merch.
Yes.
StephenMalazziGear.com. So yeah, if you want some, I haven't heard. I have my cart right here. I'm about to order my shirt. I'm gonna get that purple shirt. I'm getting that purple shirt.
Oh yeah, I
Stacking
ordered a
Denny's
bunch of
logo and
stuff. I
everything.
definitely ordered purple shirt. What else did I order? I'm going into here. I ordered the hat. Ordered purple shirt. Ordered some of the beer koozies. Um, Ended up ordering actually a second shirt, one black, one purple, and some stickers. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
But the
I
purple,
actually
dude,
kind of
that purple is like perfect.
it is. I can't, like I said, I can't get over it. The truck and this merch. So yeah, make sure you check out that merch. Order it if you want. You should, especially that purple shirt's awesome. But yeah. So getting fully on into Martinsville here. What a race! What a race! The first race last year at Martinsville had in Jeff Gluck's poll was 18.7% that people said it was a good race. We're up from that this year up to 37%. Lowest race of the season of people saying that's a good race, behind only Phoenix, which I will note are the last 2 races of the season and the one race that determines a championship. I think that's very noteworthy. But what we saw at Martinsville on Sunday, Kyle Larson, victory lane, Ryan Preece on the pole, dominated 135 laps, led, got a speeding penalty, could not recover from that. the name of the game on Sunday at Martinsville was track position. If you did not have track position, you did not have a good race. If you made a mistake, if you sped on pit road, you were done for. There was no coming back from it.
Mhm.
A lot of fans, a lot of media members, a lot of drivers are up in air, have their hands in the air, saying that this needs to be fixed. You cannot pass, and we saw this last year. We saw this at short tracks last year. Obviously, NASCAR has been making some adjustments to the short track package. We've seen some gains, some losses here, but the fact of the matter is, has NASCAR absolutely killed Martinsville Speedway? Because obviously we had the excitement at Martinsville in the fall last race with the playoff, but would that race have actually been exciting without Ross Chastain making that move? And I don't think it would
Yeah,
have.
I actually I thought it was a very good race even without the Hail Melon. You could pass in that race, and that's what that was part of
I hate
Ross's
that
problem. He
term.
could get past. Me too. That's why I never say it. So um,
We're
I
gonna
think it
bleep it
was a great
out.
race. Thank you. I hate that term. That and the W man term. Got to
Yeah.
bleep those.
So
But no,
why do you think why
I
do you
actually
think
thought
they
last
have
year's Martinsville race was good, even without that.
why do you think okay, what's the difference then that they were able to pass somewhat? I remember I didn't watch that race at all. Um I was in Vegas, but
Yeah. Well,
why
I
were
didn't
they
watch
able to
this
pass?
race at all.
Because like we were blaming last year's Martinsville spring race on the weather. Well, the weather
Mhm.
wasn't a problem this time, and they still couldn't fucking pass. So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the issue was this time around because last year in the playoff race, it was a good race. Like you could pass. It was seemed very Martinsville like last year, like classic Martinsville like.
so
And the first race
that kind
last
of
year, like
makes
we said, was terrible. So I didn't see this race. I was at Long Beach. The races, my whine about is the races starting at the same time. But you know, it's just one of those things where uh, I didn't see it, so I can't really comment on this year. But it sounds like the drivers were unhappy about it. The fans were unhappy about it. Maybe not as unhappy as last year. So it sounds like a little improvement over last year. But you're right. It's possible this car has killed Martinsville. And I think now what we're trying to see, or some of it, what I'm seeing is the shifting. Now people are going to blaming the shifting, which has been what's preventing people from getting runs and making passes. You didn't used to have to shift in the same ways or patterns, or even necessarily at all in the past, and now you downshift, you upshift, and that's gonna make it a lot harder for other cars to pass you.
yeah, and I think the shifting is rightfully getting some attention, but the main thing is tire wear. There's
Yeah,
absolutely no tire wear. So I understand people
yeah,
wanting to blame NASCAR and wanting to blame this package and everything else. And this is going to be part of my whine about it is that whole topic. But I'm I understand NASCAR deserves blame here and the shifting gets some blame. At what point do we say Goodyear needs to make some tires that fucking fall off? Because after 80 laps, for there to only be less than half a second fall off on those tires, that is a major reason that a lot of people are overlooking as to why this
hmm
race was so shitty. Because
I agree.
you look at the truck race on Friday, they could pass, and it's because they had tire fall off. Like so, I think that's more of an issue than the package and the engines and the horsepower and the shifting is than anything else. And obviously, I don't like I'm not a driver. I'm nobody. But from my perspective, I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are overlooking.
Yeah, I'm very curious because I mean, obviously, last year the cold race there was no fall off because it was so cold. I do believe they made a tire change as well. I'm pulling it up on J-Ski right now. Goodyear tire notes from the first race. They ran um, left side 51.54, right side 51.36. In the second race, they ran left side 51.76, right side 51.78. So definitely a compound change. Goodyear prepares cold weather compounds for Martinsville's concrete corners because of the times of the year. The weather can be cool or even cold. That complicates the process of laying rubber. To respond to that, Goodyear tested the Southern Virginia short track to come up with tread compounds that will accomplish that goal. And while the temperatures at the on-track session in June were significantly warmer, Goodyear's confident the compound changes both the left and the right side tires will rubber in the track better in all weather conditions. So that was for last year. They definitely made a tire compound change. Looking at this year, what tire compound did they bring? They brought the exact same compound as the playoff race, and we just didn't have the same fall off that we had in the playoff race last year. I don't know if it was temperature, right? Because that playoff race, I believe, was in the 80s or so, low 80s, and this was in the 60s maybe. I don't have those exact temperatures, but it could be a little bit of that. It could be now because we have a lower downforce package, and the acceleration, because Martinsville's not Richmond, Martinsville's not Phoenix. I think because it's Martinsville where it's so much, like it's really, really flat, and it's so much slower and shorter and tighter, you're not getting the same, even though you are accelerating off faster, you're not getting the same deal with the tires because you actually, that less downforce is pushing the car into the ground less. So it's reducing the amount the tires are being pushed into the ground, which would increase their wear. So that's being reduced. So maybe that's part of it as well. It's tough to say. I honestly don't know, but it certainly sounds like it wasn't as good as last year. Last year in the playoff race, track position didn't matter. You could come from the back and you could move to the front. Obviously not in the first race. There was only maybe one or two drivers who could. But in that playoff race, it was a classic Martinsville race. You could pass, you could move through the field. Sounds like in this one it was a lot tougher. Maybe not last year spring race levels, but getting close to that.
Yeah, I'd almost say this was worse than spring race last year, just for the fact that like teams could, and I can't believe more teams didn't like do two tires or stay out on no tires late in the race.
Yep.
Here's a stat for you though. Joey Logano finished second despite having an average running position of 21.0, the worst average running position for a runner-up finish in a cup race since at least 2008, according to Racing Insights. Keep in mind that includes superspeedway races where drivers specifically and intentionally hold back and go in the back of the pack. This hasn't happened. Like this is just a testament to how awful this was, in my opinion. Obviously I'm very thankful that Logano pulled that strategy, and Blaney, I think, did two tires as well. They both finished top 10. I can keep betting on NASCAR. I won both of those bets. I'm a very happy man. I'm happy that I won the bets. I'm not really happy how I won them because they weren't good bets. Like neither of those guys were top 10. Blaney was fringe, but Logano wasn't. Well, I mean, he could have been, but he had to start in the rear and like we said, track position. But yeah, that kind of stat is just very telling of where this package was and what I don't even know. Like now all of a sudden, the fall race at Martinsville is going to be another, just like we had last year. Is it going to be as shitty as the spring race, or is it going to surprise again? But another stat that came out of this past Cup race this last weekend, 2 weeks in a row that the Cup race has timed in at less than 3 hours, and I think that's significant. Right now baseball's working on getting their games shorter. Do we feel like NASCAR's kind of, and maybe not intentionally, but that's kind of their goal, is to shorten these races because they got so long, despite the stage cautions and everything, which add time, like, not seeing the wrecks, not being able to pass as much, maybe this is all coming together to create shorter races with these, which go hand in hand with the later start times.
Yep, possibly. I never want less racing. I don't want shorter races. Maybe NASCAR does. Maybe that's the goal, and it could be. But part of it is just fewer cautions, right? I mean, that race didn't have many cautions at all, from what I gather. I legitimately haven't even looked up the stats for it. I got back on Monday, was exhausted, and caught up on work today and did my taxes because today was tax day. So did all my work, did my taxes, did Stacking Dennys. So Been a day. I haven't looked, but I didn't even see how many cautions. 5 cautions for 50 laps, and a 400 lap race. So definitely cutting time down. It used to be a 500 lap race, and we used to often see more cautions at Martinsville than five. Um, I think for me, the difference between baseball and NASCAR, yeah, it's great to have 2 hour 15, 2 hour 30-minute baseball because what you're cutting down on is dead time, time where nothing's happening between a pitch and between the hit or the play or the out or whatever, or then between the next pitch. You're cutting down on that 20 seconds of dead time each time and making it shorter. Well, there's not all that dead time in NASCAR. You're always constantly racing. And the other difference, the bigger difference, there's 162 baseball games a year for every team, including
Yeah.
tons a day. You could watch baseball for 7 hours a day if you wanted, right? It seems like these days, and that's great. That's good. That's fine. If you get three straight back-to-back 2 hour 15-minute games, it's basically 7 hours of baseball you can watch. I don't want my NASCAR cut down to 2 hours and 15 minutes and then my day is done for that because I love racing. That's my hobby. That's what I enjoy. That's my passion. So if I finally have 2 hours and 15 minutes of racing, I feel robbed because I'm not going to get my 7 hours of racing like I can get 7 hours of baseball or 9 hours of NFL in a single weekend. I'm going to get 2 hours and 15 minutes of the Cup Series. I'm glad we have Xfinity. I'm glad we have trucks. I'm glad we have IndyCar. But those are spread out over 3 days, whereas we get so much more baseball, so much more football, so much more NBA, so much more NHL. We don't get as much time for NASCAR. Even golf, it's a 7-8 hour day for 4 days in a row because there's guys teeing off early, teeing off middle, teeing off late, and they all play 4 hour rounds. So you get like 7 hours a day of golf for 4 days. We don't get that for NASCAR. We get we get practice and we get qualifying, but as far as like actual results, the thing that contributes to the actual results, we get 2 hours and a half, 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours, one time a week for Cup, and then
I was gonna say, yeah.
maybe for
Obviously,
Xfinity, maybe for trucks, and then if you like IndyCar or Formula One as well.
yeah, yeah. So it's just interesting, where these races are going. I know the ratings were up comparatively to last year, but at the same time, last year's Martinsville race was rain delayed and everything else, and they weren't really comparing apples to apples there, in my opinion. But
Yeah, I agree.
and also Chase Elliott came back this week, so whether that had a major impact on ratings, um, I don't think there's enough proof there.
I'd
Other
say not.
news,
I'd say not simply because if you look at Richmond 2 weeks ago and Martinsville this week, which are pretty comparable, both were on FS1, neither experienced like rain delays or anything. They basically
yeah,
had the same number of viewers. In fact, Martinsville was slightly less, so that would negate the Chase Elliott theory.
yeah,
Because Chase Elliott,
agreed,
the race that didn't have Chase Elliott had a few more viewers.
yeah. Other news that broke today: Colleague Racing's penalty got overturned. Um, you know, that was this might be my whine about it.
Yeah.
So
I saw
yeah,
from your tweet. I was like, I bet this is going to be his line about it.
I have so many things I want to whine about. So, but screw it. Let's
I love it.
let's get right into whine about it. Okay, Colleague Racing, same exact thing that Hendrick Motorsports went through at Phoenix. Problems with the louvers or whatever they're called on the car. Colleague or Hendrick went through the appeal process, got the penalty reduced. Colleague went through the appeal process. The penalty did not get reduced. Had fans pissed off. Um, Went through a second appeal process with Colleague, and NASCAR came out today and was like, basically like in an interest of fairness, Colleague Racing's penalty is getting rescinded, and people are now, oh yes, NASCAR did the right thing. Good job, NASCAR. Blah blah blah. No, absolutely fucking not. Like, what are you talking about? Why are we celebrating this absolute fucking clown show of an organization that constantly makes these awful calls, just completely pulling shit out of their ass, and then they, after weeks, make what should have been the right call in the first place? and now all of a sudden they're a great sport. Why are we patting them on the back for this? I don't get it. Like this whole appeals process has been an absolute joke, and everything else. I don't think NASCAR deserved any credit. If anything, they should get more criticism now because it
Hmm.
just exploited how much of a fucking joke this process is. Like, what is the point of this appeals process if you have two different appeals boards that look at the exact same situation, come to different um, decisions on it, and then NASCAR eventually steps in, who put the penalties down in the first place, and then says, yes, this is a good move
Yeah.
that this second appeal took the points away. What are you talking about? What is this? Like, I cannot believe
It
that there are not more people up in arms about this.
it is bad. It's a terrible situation, because it looks horrible through the whole process. You're 100% right. The only thing that I think I will agree with all the people on Twitter, at the end, don't we want Hendrick and colleagues' penalties to be the same? I think that's like where, okay, that at least is correct. If they have the same infraction, they have the same result. So we got there, but the way we got it, 100%, what you're saying was, and it's, in a way, it's not like NASCAR's fault because they followed the process to a T. But the problem is that means the process is a big joke.
The process is horseshit.
Yeah. So everything was done correctly, done as it should be done. The problem is that process is very obviously flawed. Looking at this exact situation, it's very clearly flawed. And so NASCAR is gonna have to take a hard look at how do we change this process to make it far less flawed, because this is very flawed.
Yeah. So I feel like I feel like that's the big thing, and I'm gonna do a whine about it part two for me this week because
Yes, let's
this
go.
actually this actually segues very well. So I think people are obviously happy with that part of it, but they're missing the entire picture of this and not understanding how much that process just absolutely sucks, and that there's still a major problem. So part this is my second whine about it. This is part two. Um, People that are complaining about the Martinsville race, the Martinsville racing, the product on track. I understand it entirely. Get it completely. I will sit here and bitch about it as well. It sucked. Short track racing has not been great with this new car, with this new package. Um, but we cannot dismiss the fact that before this new car, the racing at mile and a halfs and the racing at big ovals was awful. You cannot dismiss the fact that the racing at those ovals, those bigger tracks, is now better.
Hmm.
You're not going to have anything that makes the racing uniformly good at every single racetrack. It's not going to happen. So I understand people sitting here getting all up in arms, and that's my favorite phrase tonight, by the way. I don't know why, but
Up in arms, yeah.
yeah, um, people are getting upset and saying NASCAR needs to make these major changes. Which, by the way, they are not going to make any changes to the engines. Like,
Nope.
I don't think people understand how big of a process that would be. That's not a willy nilly situation that you do. But you can sit here and bitch about the on track product and say things need to change, but you also cannot dismiss the fact that the racing is better at other areas and other
I
tracks
agree.
that completely sucked before. Right now, the racing at road courses, now that they've taken the stage cautions out, might be the best racing on road courses we've seen in a while, in my opinion. We have a very small sample size, but I think it's going to get very better. The racing, obviously, at mile and a half, which was and the bad thing for NASCAR is, they've quote unquote fixed, they haven't fixed, but they've significantly improved the racing at the mile and a halves. Now that they've taken the schedule and taken most of the mile and a halves off,
Yeah.
it's not as impactful. But
Right, right,
when
exactly.
people complain about this racing, you cannot forget the fact that there are areas that have been significantly improved. And I know this is like kind of going against wine about it and going against me, quote unquote. I got another tweet about me never saying anything positive about NASCAR, but uh, you cannot dismiss this fact that the racing is better at other places, and then just completely I want to say overreact. I think that's what people are doing to this bad Martinsville race because in my opinion, I kind of knew what we were getting into after last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I 100% agree with you. And I'm glad you mentioned it, but I was going to say it if you didn't. The schedule is funny because, the mile and a half used to be the bread and butter of NASCAR. And they made those better, but they chopped off 6 of them or whatever. So
Yeah.
it was one of those funny things where like you intentionally cut those down, but then you also tried to make those better, which is good. We want those to be better. I'm not saying you should make those better, but by doing that, you hurt the part that you grew more, which is the short tracks, the road courses. They're getting in the right direction on the road courses, like you said. Lower downforce package, removing the stages. That was definitely a good COTA race. It was the best COTA race we've seen, for sure, of the 3. But yeah, it's interesting. It was like they're kind of coming to, I don't know, it's not the right word, but like kind of coming to a central point of like we've removed the cookie cutterness of all those mile and a halves. We've made them better, and we've added more short track, road course, dirt, whatever. But we've made them a little worse. So it's kind of like pulling everything back towards the middle, like everything. So now everything's just in the middle, which is fine. They're obviously, even when your standard deviation narrows, you're still going to have upside and downside. So, it's going to be that way. So the worst races that we have now, to be fair, last year's Martinsville was maybe one of the worst I've ever seen. I didn't see this year's Martinsville. But some of the other like bad races, Bristol Dirt first year was there with that. But they are not necessarily on the level of like the worst races of all time I've ever seen in NASCAR. They're close, but they're not there. Like the standard deviation's narrowing a little bit. I think the upside on some of these has maybe narrowed a little bit as well. Last season, greatest season ever, debatable. I still think 2011 was the greatest season ever, especially with the way the championship race fizzled out. But I still think it's a good overall direction of the bell curve, and fans on the bad weekends don't recognize that. So I think that's kind of the intention of your bell curve, of your whine about it, is like people are not recognizing that like NASCAR has actually made some things better. So yeah. I know that goes, like you said, it goes against.
Which it's yeah. This is
but now you're whining. But we don't have to whine about NASCAR. We can whine about whatever we want to whine about. And so you're whining about people whining about NASCAR for for bad races, and then not realizing that it's not a whole disaster with all of NASCAR. It's just the specific area.
Yeah, exactly. You get it. That's perfectly explained. So you're whining about it now.
Well, I didn't get to see the NASCAR race. That's what I'm whining about. Like, I understand NASCAR has these later start times, and I understand it's for the TV ratings. But when you go head-to-head against another premier racing series, that's going to cut into your numbers that you're trying to grow by going later. So why not just go earlier? Then I could watch the NASCAR race and watch the IndyCar race, and both series get my view. Instead, only IndyCar gets my view because I was there in person to watch IndyCar. If I was at home, I could have both on TV, but even then, not everybody has the ability to do that. Not everybody has the ability to stream one and watch the other, or this, that, or the other. So it's like you're growing a third limb just to cut your other one off in some ways by doing these later start times on Sundays. But then if you're going directly opposite IndyCar. Now, IndyCar has no option to go much later because they're on the West Coast. So a 12:30 IndyCar start time West Coast is 3:30 Eastern. So I guess IndyCar could start at 3:30 for Long Beach, I guess. But they're trying to open the streets of Long Beach up again. So they're trying to end the day earlier so they can start tearing everything down and opening things back up for traffic. So that's the issue with a street course race, which IndyCar has a bunch of those. IndyCar is not going to just abandon street races. So they have to start those with enough time to be able to start the teardown before it gets dark. So that's the issue. That's why they also have things like time limits on the race, so that they don't run 6 hours and they're finishing right before sunset. They need to start tearing down this stuff to get the city open again. Not the whole city shut down. Obviously, it's a very specific part, but it's just a thing they need to do. So they are their hands are tied much more than NASCAR's hands are tied with the start time. NASCAR could start Martinsville at 12:30, 1 o'clock, like they did years ago, and maybe they lose viewership, but they gain some of it back by not being directly head-to-head with IndyCar. I know it sounds simplistic. I know I'm making it more simplistic. I know I've been for NASCAR doing what they need to do to get their TV viewership numbers to where they want to be, because that way we get to watch more NASCAR. If we don't get a good TV package, we get to watch less of it and maybe lower quality of it on TV. So we want the best possible TV deal we can get as fans. I just feel like this specific race is probably a spot where you could move it and it's not going to kill you for one race. And just having IndyCar and NASCAR going head-to-head against each other just sucks. It sucks, man. It sucks. But what can you do? At least as far as they're both going to run on Sunday, I guess. Maybe you make one of them run on Saturday, but that's not how it works, man. Like, IndyCar is a premier event, so they have a bunch of feeder races as well, right? We had the Stadium Super Trucks there. We had the IMSA Sports Car race there. Sometimes they'll have the Indy Next Series, the NXT, or maybe even the lower, like single A, double A versions of that as well, the F2000, US F2000. So it's tough, but I feel like there could be opportunities, and I'm putting more of this on NASCAR simply for this race, but I think there may be another opportunity or two as well for IndyCar and NASCAR to better align their schedules, even if they're racing on the same weekend in very different places, to better align their schedules. I think that'd benefit both series.
Yeah, it's so like my day job, we work with um, crappie fishing tournament trails, and there's other crappie fishing and fishing tournament trails out there, and they all kind of work together with their schedules to make sure they're not overlapping and stuff. It's not like NASCAR and IndyCar can't communicate here and get this done. So it is going to be interesting to see moving forward, because NASCAR is about to negotiate a new whether broadcast or streaming deal for races. So there's definitely been talks of maybe like someone like an Amazon or an Apple taking over, similar to, I mean, YouTube TV just got NFL Sunday Ticket after DirecTV had it forever. So it'd be interesting to see, if there are any changes to these start times with this new deal, because I don't know, like, obviously our viewership is down quite a bit this year, it continues to decline. Feel like the stuff that they're changing isn't really working very well. Another thing, and I forget who tweeted it. It might have been Dave Moody, who somehow doesn't have me blocked on Twitter yet. But if it was him, or whoever else, they mentioned, like the NASCAR schedule. Like, we're down to now 36. Obviously, we have 36 races. There's one off week. That's it. They get Father's Day off. And obviously there's, the All-Star race weekend that's technically not a points-paying race, or it's more of an exhibition, but this is a long-ass season. And you and I know this as content creators. This is a long-ass season. Like, we're already 9 races into the regular season. What is this? Like, you count the duels and the Clash, we're up to 11, 12 races right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not to the point where I'm burned out yet, but I know summertime rolls around. We get to the midpoint of the season. It's when I start to get a little burned out. This is a very long season. Do you think NASCAR should change or add off weeks? Or, Brad Keselowski mentioned, doing more, and not to mention they've taken away most of the Saturday night races. Like, we don't really have those anymore. Yep. So, you have any thoughts on this schedule? Keselowski, I think, said, move some races to Saturday night, do some do some
midweek
midweek races, at short tracks or something like
to
that.
help give us a week off.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely
I
something I think NASCAR should consider. I don't think they will though.
I'm as a content creator, I'm for it, right? If we could have a Wednesday race and a Sunday race, like our Monday, Tuesday, whatever, they're fine. We're looking at odds. We're right, doing this podcast, etc. But there's definitely a period of time like, okay, I've got, and thankfully I've got a full time job with Action. I've got plenty of time to update my NFL model, to try out a few things with this Women's World Cup potentially model that I want to do for this summer, right? So I have some time to play around with some other things that'll benefit Action Network that I can do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before track activity really starts. But man, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're slaying, dude. Like, especially if it's a truck Xfinity Cup weekend. I know it's tough for me. Those weekends are rough. So it would be good to have a week off, or just Cup or just Xfinity, right? Those weekends are very, very nice. When we have at most one series or zero series running. So from that perspective, from the selfish perspective, yes. And I think that's also where Brad Keselowski is coming from. Like, yeah, it'd be great to have just a week off, right? I mean, I essentially did take this week off. I had a vacation week from NASCAR. I did nothing. I did zero content creation for NASCAR after midweek or whatever, from running my model to just to get some odds and some content for running hot and for the Stacking Dennys podcasts. I had the week off. I didn't do truck. I didn't do Xfinity. I didn't do Cup. Thank goodness, Action Network is under the same umbrella as Roto Grinders, so I was able to rely on my Roto Grinders friend Stevie Young there to help with the workload there, and obviously he knows I'll return the favor anytime. So I had a vacation week. It was a much needed, especially because I work NFL all year. I literally don't have a weekend off between NFL and NASCAR. I don't have a single weekend off, I don't think. Maybe one between NFL and NASCAR, but that's not even really because you're preparing for NASCAR. So I guess maybe I have like 2 or 3 throughout the whole year where I don't have NFL or NASCAR races to do. So it was nice to have a fourth weekend or whatever. Let's say I have 3. It's nice to have a fourth weekend in there for me by being able to take this vacation and go to that race. If I'm going to another race this year, I'm still doing content. Like, it's not going to be a work vacation. It is going to be going to the race, but I'm still doing my work. So it's going to have to be a not vacation race weekend. And I do believe I'm going to get to at least one, probably 2 or 3 more races this year. We'll have to see. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, especially with NFL season. But I think I'll be able to get to at least one, if not 2 or 3 more races this year between NASCAR and IndyCar. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I agree. I think it'd be nice to have an extra weekend or 2 off for everybody that's involved with the industry. I don't think it's just a driver thing. I don't think it's just a me and you thing. I think everybody in the industry would love an extra week off. How do we make that happen? So, but at the same time, I don't want my 17 race IndyCar schedule. I want like a 20 race IndyCar schedule, like it used to be in the late 90s, early 2000s. We had 18, 19, 20, 21 races for IndyCar. 17's too short, and it's too short of a season. It goes from March until September, I believe now. I don't even think it runs into October. Let me pull up the IndyCar schedule real quick, because I know Kyle Kirkwood's birthday last year was in the off season, which is mid-October. Yeah, so it runs March 5th to September 10th. So that's 6 months out of the year, and then they have 6 months off. That's too much time off for me for a series that I love. So I'd love to see a 20 race schedule where they go into October, early October maybe. I mean, they have a month off right after St. Petersburg, March 5th, April 2nd. There's a month off. You could throw one race in there and extend the season by, at most a month, but 2 races if you took a week off between each of those final 2 races. So race 19 and race 20, by tacking on 2 more, you'd push into early October. And I'd like to see that for IndyCar. But for NASCAR, I want to keep 36 races. I think 36 is a good number. But we need to work some off weeks in there for NASCAR.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to Keselowski's idea there. I think that's a pretty solid one that needs some discussion, and hopefully NASCAR takes it seriously.
I agree.
Um, but yeah, so 36 races in the season. We are now 9 done, so we are a quarter of the way through the year. Looking at the standings, Christopher Bell still the points leader over Ross Chastain by 5. Kevin Harvick, who had another great car at Martinsville, didn't get the finish, um, but was super fast yet again. Larson gets his second win. He is now fourth in points, and then Truex is fifth in points, despite not running. I mean, Truex is not running that great this year, but
No.
obviously he's getting the points. Any surprises? We still got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had another solid finish, top 10 at Martinsville this past weekend. He's sitting 13th in the points. Brad Keselowski sitting there 12th. Looking at playoff points, we now have. I'm not sure this is updated.
We have
Byron has
Larson with
15.
12.
Okay, Larson has 12.
Byron has 10 because of the 5-point playoff point penalty, I believe.
Yeah, Racing Reference doesn't believe in taking that off. I don't think.
But yeah, Byron has 10. Larson leads with 12 in terms of playoff points. Then Byron 10. Looks like next is Tyler Reddick with 7. Joey Logano with 6. And then everybody else has 5 or fewer. Including Alex Bowman with -5.
Yeah, still rooting for that. But yeah, Kyle Larson's second win of the year. Do you think that makes him now? Is he solidly the championship favorite right now? I know we don't like talking championship, but for him to get two wins early on in the season, he could easily have 4 if we're being honest. He could have won Phoenix. He could have won Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Larson could be at 4
Byron
wins
could
right now.
have 3 or 4 wins as well, though. So I think it's between him,
Right.
Byron, and Chase Elliott. If Chase Elliott's leg heals properly and he doesn't really affect him. Obviously, he had a good finish there, but he still needs to get into the playoffs. He needs to get a win probably to get into the playoffs. I don't know if he's going to be able to get into the top 16. Right now, he is. Chris Buescher is 16th with 206 points. Chase Elliott has 76, so he's 130 behind Buescher, and that doesn't count if anybody outside the top 16 wins a race as well. So there's always going to be that thing. Like, we got to keep an eye on Chase Elliott. So that reduces his downside, or increases his downside, reduces his upside enough, I guess, by the little bit of a threat to not make the playoffs. That I think probably Larson's the favorite for sure. And then I think you probably have to put Byron too, just because of what Elliott's situation is. And I think there's a bigger question about who's 3, maybe Bell and Elliott, like tied 3rd or something like that. But for me, you mentioned Martin Truex Jr. He's sitting 5th in the points. He only has 37 stage points, which is not even inside the top 12, I don't think, in terms of stage points. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's 11th in stage points. But he's 5th in season points because he's finished between 3rd and 19th every race. So he's been like, I'm gonna use the Zoomer. Is it Zoomer language these days? I don't know what generation we're on, but like that, he's been that term, what they call mid, and like he's just been mid. And I never say that, but I feel like I saw a tweet from my Action Network coworker Anthony DeBundo that was like the battle of mid, and that was like, is this Jose Barrios versus Luis Garcia tomorrow? I'm assuming those are 2 baseball pitchers or something. The battle of mid. Well, Martin Truex Jr., he's been mid this year, so I don't think I think we got to recalibrate our Martin Truex Jr. expectations. He's no longer a 12-1 driver. He's a 16-1 driver, and I'm not talking championship. I'm talking like races, right? How many races has the guy won in the last 2 years? He's technically 0 points paying races and just the 1 exhibition race. It's been 36 plus 9 is 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54 races since Martin Truex Jr. last won a points-paying race. So we're not talking a guy that should be 12-1 anymore, or 8-1, or 10-1. We're talking a guy, we need to recalibrate our expectations that maybe the shortest he should be is 16-1 right now. It's a little unfair because he's had races he maybe should have won, but he hasn't. So that's why I'm saying, and even just looking at top 3 finishes, Martinsville this year, which was this past weekend, no top 3 finishes last year. He had none. No top 3 finishes last year. And then second in the championship race in 2021 would be his next most recent top 3 finishes. Last year, he only had 1, 2, 3 top 5, 4 top 5s, and they're all 4th or 5th place finishes, right? This isn't a guy that's running in the top 5 all the time anymore. So we got to recalibrate our Martin Truex Jr. expectations here.
You could have told me that he only had 4 top 5s and 0 top 3s last year, and I would have never believed you. And I actually had to look it up. That is, and one of those top 5s was Talladega. So I mean, you can, in my opinion, just throw that out. So he only had 3 in my eyes.
Yep.
Wow,
exactly.
That's interesting. But yeah, completely agree with you. You know, looking at stage points this year, like you said, Truex has 37. Austin Cindric has 34. You know who has less than those two? Ryan Blaney with 33. Kyle Busch with 32. Like, we talked about, obviously the big story last year was Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr. Struggling and not getting the win, but it appears that has continued on this year.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Blaney has even less. He's been even more mid, I guess, than Truex in terms of results and stage points. Truex reminds me of Kevin Harvick from 2021. Not last year, but 2 years ago, Kevin Harvick, when Stewart-Haas Racing, right? You remember Harvick had that 9-win year, didn't make the championship 4. The next year, all of Stewart-Haas took a step back. Like, that's what Truex reminds me of now, is that 2021 Harvick where all of Stewart-Haas Racing took a step back, but at least Harvick was good enough to still bring home consistent finishes. But the difference is Harvick finished 4th, 6th, 5th, 20th, 6th, 10th, 15th, 9th in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 24th in the first 9 races. Those are a lot of top 10s. Truex has just 3, and only 1 top 5. So it's not even that level of Harvick. Harvick fell off that year. Stewart-Haas did. I don't necessarily think Harvick as a driver did, but Stewart-Haas as a team did, and Harvick carried the team, but they were just a much more inferior team. We're at the point where Truex is legitimately just mid, and it sucks to say that, but that's where we are right now. As long as these results stay the way they are staying, and the way he's running stays the way it's been. So he'll probably have better tracks ahead for him. You know, Dover, Kansas, Darlington, Charlotte, all should be good for him. So we're about to run into a 4-race stretch that should be good for him, which will really tell us where Truex is at this point in the year. But it won't be Talladega because we know he's never won a Superspeedway race ever. So as far as like a points paying race. So we'll have to see in that 4-race stretch of Dover, Kansas, Darlington, and Charlotte where the real Martin Truex Jr. is. Will the real Martin Truex Jr. please stand up?
My mind went there as well. But yeah, like I'm still surprised. You know, Kyle Busch is someone that we talked about. Like, obviously he got that win at Auto Club, but so it's really surprising me that he has less stage points than Austin Cindric and Truex there. Logano's not too far ahead of Truex either. He's at 44. Truex is at 37 when it comes to those stage points. So. Yeah, something to keep an eye on for sure.
Definitely.
But,
as far as the rest of the standings, I was gonna say, as far as the rest of the standings, obviously Stenhouse another 8th at Martinsville. I don't know if we've ever said Stenhouse 8th at Martinsville. It just doesn't seem like a track that's ever been a Stenhouse track. He had 2 10th place finishes in 2017. Was this his career best Martinsville finish? I honestly don't know. I haven't looked up that stuff, and I know somebody asked, is Stenhouse this year's McDowell? Possibly, probably, right? Like Stenhouse only has 13 stage points. He has that one win from Daytona, and he's a better Daytona driver than McDowell. There's no question about it. He leads. McDowell doesn't lead. So they're different in that regard. But based off of the finishes they've had this year, is Stenhouse kind of having a JTG Doherty career year? I know back when he was with Roush, they had better cars and stuff, and he maybe he had a car that was capable of having the year he has had this year. But we're arguably seeing Stenhouse having the career year relative to his equipment.
Yeah, you asked about him at Martinsville. That is his best. That's his only single digit finish at Martinsville ever.
Yeah.
In 21 career starts now. So good for him.
And
Another
actually,
guy that,
while we're thinking about it, you mentioned something earlier, the fall off, right? There's no fall off, and it brought me back to, so you're like, well, why didn't many more people run this strategy where they, take no tires, take two tires late in the race? And it was the same thing last year when Chris Buescher won at Bristol. I remember we were like, why the hell did Harvick come in and take four tires or whatever it was? And Buescher either stayed out or took fuel only or two tires. He did some way to gain the track position. Harvick never passed him. The fall off at these short tracks isn't what it used to be, and it's so frustrating. We need that fall off back. The Stenhouse thing triggered me here because I'm sure he probably didn't run eighth on speed. I'm sure he probably got track position towards the end of the race there and held on to it.
yeah, you look at some of these guys that finished up front. Joey Logano had a driver rating of 72.9. Truex had a driver rating of 85.0. I know you don't really love driver rating, but it's a quick stat for me to pull here.
Yeah, for sure.
Stenhouse, who finished 8th, 72.9. Chase Elliott, who finished 10th, 61.0. These guys weren't running up front that race. One guy that was really fast, especially early on, was Alex Bowman. He finished 11th, 92.2 driver rating. But the guys basically that ran the best and didn't have issues were Stuart Haas was super strong in this race, but Briscoe, Hamlin, Larson, Almirola, they had the highest driver ratings in this race. They all finished top 6. And then Harvick, he won the second stage. He was 5th in driver rating. He finished 20th. I think he had a speeding issue, if I remember right, or something happened. And then Ryan Preece, obviously had that issue. But going back to just to wrap up the standings thing here, I want to point out someone that's absolutely sucking. Noah Gragson.
Uh-oh.
You look at the owner standings. Noah Gragson, the 42 for Legacy Motor Club, is 33rd in owners points, behind the 15 of Rick Ware Racing.
Yep.
Let's put that into perspective, how much Noah Gragson is sucking this year. I mean, that's just awful.
Who's 31st in owners points?
Harrison, or the 21. And then 30th is the 43 for Legacy.
Yeah, Eric Jones. So it's definitely been a year where these guys, Legacy Motor Club is a huge step back.
Huge. Like massive.
Eric Jones has 3 stage points. 3.
Yeah. Gragson has 1. Just
That's
to put it
crazy.
in perspective, Jimmy Johnson has 4.
Last year, Eric Jones had 110 stage points. 110. His 3 this year. And I know we're only 9 races in, but if you multiply that by 4, that's 12. Right. He's on pace for like almost 90% reduction in stage points.
This is one thing, and we've talked about it a few times this year on Stacking Dennys, but this drop off by Legacy is something that I don't understand at all. They won a race last year.
And a legitimate race, not a super speedway. They won a real race. You know what I mean? Super speedways you can discount. They won a real damn race.
And don't forget, Eric Jones, he could have won Auto Club last year too. This team has gone from, in my opinion, fringe race contender to near shitbox. and I have
Yeah,
no idea why. No
I agree
idea
with you.
why. It's weird.
I agree with you,
I
100%.
I'm still waiting for the day that like some kind of news breaks where that explains this, but you know. But yeah, that's all I got for standings updates. You got anything else, sir?
I'll just note that Justin Haley's 100 points that he got back now puts him 25th in the points. So he is right behind some guy named Todd Gilliland, who was having a very strong run from everything I
Very.
saw. Just didn't work out at the end. I guess he dropped a cylinder or something. But without that, he probably would have had his fifth straight top 15.
Yeah, he was and I think part of it was due to pit strategy, but he was legitimately running top 10. Like Gillen looks strong yet again. And now,
Yep.
this week he's getting taken out of his car. He's racing the 36 this week for he will be at it is a front row car, but yeah, he's getting taken out again. And last time he got taken out of the car is when his hot streak started. So another underdog to keep an eye on, which is yeah,
Yeah.
just cool to see. But yeah, Talladega this weekend. I know it's definitely one of your favorite races from a DFS perspective, and obviously a lot of people like Talladega, just super speedways in general.
Mhm.
The thing about previewing and us previewing Talladega and Daytona is it's a lot of hypotheticals. It's a lot of this could be cool. This could be a good bet, but
Yeah.
these are the most unpredictable races on the schedule, and it's like I don't think a lot of obviously new listeners, people just getting into the sport, don't realize the difference between a Talladega race and even a Martinsville race or a Phoenix race. When I make my DFS lineups for Talladega and Daytona, I put the randomization of the optimizer as high as it will go. This is
Hmm.
how random these races are. I don't care. Like, I just have a basic strategy of how I build these lineups. I don't care who's in it and or anything else. Like,
Yeah.
that's how crazy and random these races are. So keep that in mind, when we're talking about and previewing this upcoming race um, at Talladega. We really don't no, like we have a good
No.
idea of who's good at these races. We have theories on who is strong at Daytona and who should be strong at Talladega. But the fact of the matter is, anything can happen, and pretty much anyone in the field can win these races. So, did anybody opening odds came out? Joey Logano is the consensus favorite uh, among books this week. Did anybody pop out to you as possibly an early week bet? Because I got one, but I'm gonna let you go first. We might be on the same guy, but there was one that just kind of, you always have those that kind of just catch your eye. I actually
Yeah.
did have one this week. I haven't bet it, but one definitely did catch my eye.
I bet mine, and I'm not gonna be able to officially track it because I bet it and didn't track it, and it's moved because I bet it, and it's just a thing I need to get used to. I used to be able to bet it and then track it. Now when I bet it, it moves. Period.
Yeah.
If I bet the bet, it moves. So that was a fuck up on my part. So I'm not going to count it towards my official results or standings. But I do have the bet slip if you need it. I mean, you saw my Kyle Kirkwood bet slip. I'm not blowing shit up your ass. I took Ty Gibbs 12-1 as top Toyota.
Hmm.
So that's the only bet I have made so far this week. I haven't made an outright bet, but I honestly I don't know if I will. I haven't. I've barely digested lines, like I said. I've been. Today was my catch-up day with normal work, and and then I did my taxes after that. So it's like okay. Then I had to go grocery shopping after that before stacking Denny's, so I could get some beer and some wine and as part of our sponsorship of Stephen Malazia, getting some more Luvabella wine. That's why I'm wearing the Luvabella hat today. So always want to thank them, especially thank them for not only sponsoring the podcast, but again, helping with the sponsorship on Malazi. So yeah, I've barely looked at shit as far as like outright odds. I know I saw a question, anybody you take 50 or longer. I haven't seen anything yet. It doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. I just haven't seen anything yet. You might have somebody.
Um, One thing I'll notice, like we've talked several times about these books this year getting sharper, and odds just overall tightening up. And this could actually be a wine about it too. We saw news broke last week that Chase Elliott was coming back at Martinsville, and you tweeted about it. DraftKings, they just took Barry off the board and added in Chase Elliott at 7-1. Did not adjust anybody else. That could be an entire wine about it segment for what these books are doing. But so Caesars opened up Austin Hill at 20-1 to win the Cup race. He has since, I think, moved to 40-1, but there's really like I said, there's one driver that has stood out. Everything else is pretty much in line to where I would expect everything.
Yeah.
Bubba Wallace opened 22-1 on DraftKings, and I feel like that's the one that stood out to me. I think he's 20-1 now. I still don't hate it at 20-1. If I'm gonna bet anyone outright early in the week, it's gonna be Bubba. But by the way, before you respond to that, how much did you hate yourself betting on Ty Gibbs as top Toyota? I can't stand the kid. Cannot stand the kid.
I hate him. I hate him. I'm not saying I hate him in a way where like I want people to flame him on the internet and no. I'm not gonna do that. We all get it. This goes back to my mental health whine about it. Like I'm not here to be like, this guy's a piece of crap. Let's all tweet at him no. I just hate him and how he races and whatever.
Like generally,
we all know. Yeah, but that doesn't matter when I bet somebody. I can take my Kyle Kirkwood bias out and be like, this is a good Kyle Kirkwood bet or a bad Kyle Kirkwood bet. 100% know the Long Beach bet was not only a good one, a great one. I 100% know the times I have bet on him, I will say this is a good Kyle Kirkwood bet, and I know there have been times I've bet on him where I said this is a bad Kyle Kirkwood bet, but I'm a fan and it's entertainment. Purely entertainment. Yep. Ty Gibbs, I hated betting him 12-1 just because I'm very much not a fan. It's like when I bet on Joey Logano. Although Logano's growing on me off track, I still don't like him on track. So it's kind of like how old Joey Logano bets were for me. Like, I bet him because it made sense. When it would make sense. Same thing with Ty Gibbs, 12-1 top Toyota. All those Toyotas are good, right? Like, they're all good. Ty Gibbs is not a bad driver, and he's getting better. And if chaos happens, or even if chaos doesn't happen, he can still find his way as the top Toyota. So, 6 Toyotas. 5-1 would be equal on all of them if there was no juice, no hold. 5-1 on all of them would be equal odds. 12-1 is just too long. He should be like 8, and I think I ended up moving him to 8. So I don't think I'd necessarily bet him at 8, right? Because that's like 1 out of every 9 Superspeedway races. Maybe I would. Maybe I'd bet him down to 7. But we're right in that spot where like he's probably the worst of the 6 right now, but it still should run a lot closer together than we think. So those are the kinds of things I look for at Superspeedways. Where are the bigger discrepancies than they should be? And that's where I'll bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at qualifying odds actually. And just overall odds here. Like, there's just nothing like. Remember, I miss the days when I would get excited looking at Talladega or Daytona odds, where there'd be like actual value in some long shots, but there's nothing, man. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to the point where we are with sports betting in NASCAR, and I don't know if it's going to change, if it's going to get better or worse. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, there's plenty of people, within NASCAR, within this industry, that are going to suck the teat of every one of these sports books. But fact of the matter is, these lines suck. These offerings suck, and they have all year. And I'm just not liking them. Not liking it at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even the qualifying odds. Like, okay, so remember Daytona? It was like, we all talked about how the Fords might be good with this nose change, but then the Hendricks still ended up winning out at Daytona. But it was close. And then I was like, I think for Atlanta, it's going to matter more that the Fords have this change. and they did. I think we might be back to the Hendrick show and even possibly some Gibbs in there for qualifying this week. But at the same time, they've brought those odds down really far. Like, Bowman's probably the best bet at 15-1 for qualifying, but it's tough to say, right? Because those Fords made those improvements at Atlanta, and they made some gains at Daytona. Easily the best Atlanta. And then, it's like, okay, well, that was great there. Then what about the Toyotas? Like, they're kind of in between, but they've occasionally done well at Talladega specifically as far as pole qualifying. So I think it's a little more wide open this week. Yeah. And Truex had a good run or two in some qualifying laps. So I think it's a little more wide open than we think for pole qualifying. So I don't really want to even touch pole qualifying odds. And I was very adamant about the Fords at Atlanta because that surface was so new that, they were going to have a lot of grip there, which would help their... The issue is they streamline the nose, which reduces the drag, but that also reduces the downforce, which should hurt your handling. But that's why I liked Atlanta more, because the surface was so new. You'd get so much grip, the handling wouldn't be as bad here. Daytona feels the most handling dependent track of them because it does have tighter corners than Talladega. It doesn't have quite as much banking. Talladega is so wide, so steeply banked, so big that I don't think handling comes into play as much here either. So it could be a Fords. It could be Chevys. It could be Toyotas. I don't know. I just want to stay away from qualifying this week. And I hate qualifying in general, so I'm happy to always sit out qualifying. But I definitely feel like this week's a good week to sit out qualifying.
Yeah, if I'm going to bet anybody at qualifying, you mentioned Truex. He started second or third in the spring race here at Talladega last year. He's 28-1. I could sprinkle a little bit on there and have some fun with it. Maybe like a Daniel Suarez at 30-1. But yeah, I'm not loving anything at qualifying. And I rarely bet qualifying. It's one of those, if I get an itch, I kind of do it. But top 10 finish. You talked about Ty Gibbs you bet him top Toyota. He's plus 430 on FanDuel for a top 10. What do you think about that?
Yep. Plus 430 for a top 10?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I guess they came out either while we were recording this or right before, because I haven't seen these yet. Let me open it up here. I just need to scroll down. Yeah, we should definitely bet that. That's ridiculous. Michael McDowell's plus 430 for a top 10. Michael McDowell's plus 430 for a top 10. So it might be time to do the live bet deal again with top 10s.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get in here, log into my FanDuel account.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too.
Seems like this happens a lot.
Yep. These top 10s for FanDuel are much nicer. Harrison Burton, 7.5. Priest, 5-1? That doesn't make sense. He's so good at these. LaJoy, 5-1? Oh, man. Yep.
Are you hitting all of them?
Yeah. Yep. All right, I've hit Gibbs, McDowell, LaJoy, Priest, Burton. And there may even be more. Allmendinger should not be plus 430. He's really good at Super Speedways, honestly.
They're being quite generous here.
Super generous. I almost don't even hate Suarez at plus 210.
Don't say that.
No. It's Suarez at Super Speedway. I forgot about that. It's Suarez. He's been doing better though at these.
Yeah, I think he has back-to-back top 10s right now at Super Speedways.
I don't think I can do Suarez. I don't think I can do Suarez 210, but I think these 430s, these 5s, these 7.5s, definitely in on those. So Gibbs, McDowell, LaJoy, Priest, Burton, Dinger. This is what happens. We record Stacking Dennys at our normal time, and we come out with a normal schedule, and FanDuel posts these while we're recording. Much better. I love it. I wonder if that means there's going to be top 3 value. Probably not. Probably not. This is a little shorter than I'd like. I have to run some numbers. Like I said, I haven't run my model. I don't even know if my top 10 bets are good, but those are just like, to me, those are all auto bets every single time.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, obviously we just literally just looked them up and put them in. So I hit Harrison Burton, Ryan Priest, Ty Gibbs, and Corey LaJoy.
Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs, Priest, and LaJoy. And not McDowell?
I need to get McDowell in there. Good call.
And for me, A.J. Allmendinger, he's always good at these. He finished 6th at Daytona. Finished 3rd at the Daytona 500 in 2017.
I don't know if I can get myself to bet Allmendinger just out of pure spite.
Out of spite, the emotional part of it. Oh no, I can see that's the part I can remove is the emotion. I'm pulling up AJ Allmendinger Superspeedway stats for you right now. Non-Atlanta Superspeedway because I think that's bullshit. But Daytona, Talladega. Here's AJ Allmendinger. Since he joined JTG. Or let's say he was with Penske, non-shit boxes, essentially. A.J. Allmendinger has top 10 finishes in 10 of 35, which is plus 250.
Okay.
If we include Finch, it's 10 of 36. So yeah, plus 260. So he's plus 430, and he's arguably in really good super speedway equipment.
I can't believe you're making me do this. AJ Allmendinger plus 430. And Michael McDowell plus 430. And oh shit. What the hell's that? One more guy in there. Justin Haley.
210 or 430. What is
430.
Haley? Oh, and Haley.
Haley's 430.
Yeah, I forgot about Haley. Just trying to type in all these things for tracking. Yeah. Oh, baby. All right. Well, that's a lot. Yeah, Dinger, McDowell, Gibbs, Haley, Priest, LaJoy, Burton. 7 bets, 1 unit each. Top 10. In.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are all on the same. We are on the same bets.
And I didn't even put Gregson there, but maybe I should. Right, we just need 2 of these to hit to break even at worst. If it's 2 plus 430s, we make 0.6 units. But
right.
If we bet Gregson, I'm saying if we do. But yeah, I'm on 6 right here. I didn't take Gilliland at 5-1.
I guess that 36 car. That's what David Reagan finished well with last year. That's what he ran in the Daytona 500 last year.
But no, he ran the 15 last year.
Did he?
Yeah. He ran the 15 last year. By the way, Gregson does have one top 10 in 5 career super speedway starts, and that was with Beard Motorsports.
Yeah, that's who Austin Hill's racing with this week. That I still can't get over that he opened 20-1.
Yeah, that's way too short. David Reagan ran the Rick Ware car in 2022.
Who can you look up who ran the 36 last year?
Yeah. Um, 2022 Daytona 500. Nobody. It was just McDowell and Gilland for front row at the Daytona 500.
I wonder what I'm thinking then.
So yeah, right now I'm at those. I haven't done Gilliland at 5-1, and I haven't done Gregson at 6.5-1. But maybe I should. Maybe I should.
I accidentally tracked something wrong on
Oh, in the app.
action.
Yeah, I'm betting him first because I don't move the lines at FanDuel. Um, Plus this is gonna drop before Stacking Dennys, so or if I track them, the lines are gonna move before Stacking Dennys airs. So I'm gonna try to give the users, the listeners, an opportunity here. Because I always have my tracking spreadsheet, but obviously I need to track things in the Action app as my job. It's one of those weird, like, being content creator is the hardest part of all of this because you're trying to balance getting your users the information with actually tracking it in the app that is my company's app and that kind of stuff. So, and it's not just me. It's like everybody in my company. We have this issue of like, well, if we track it, we're moving the line. But we want to track it at the odds we got it, etc. So it's just one of those weird things.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I have bets for this race.
Always cracks me up the live stuff we find here on Stacking Dennys. And I do wish
I
we'd
know,
be
right?
able to broadcast this live, but I don't think we get any listeners, to be honest with you.
I think people think they want it to be live, and maybe we get 5 listeners, but that's just not worth it.
No, because even that impromptu one that we did, that wine about it we did, didn't get enough listeners to make me want to do it again. Not
Exactly.
that I thrive off of listeners, but definitely a numbers game at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Who am I missing here? Okay.
It's half our podcast now is just going to be tracking these top tens.
Right.
So I did Gibbs and McDowell. I need to do Dinger. 4:30. FanDuel, right? And it's the other thing is like it just takes a little bit of time to do these. Justin Haley.
Those are the two I forgot to put too.
Yeah. So 4:30 on Haley. FanDuel. All right, so I got my 4:30 guys. I need to track Priest and LaJoy. FanDuel. Track. Priest. FanDuel. 500. Track. And then Burton, 7.5. FanDuel. Track. All right, I'm in. I have seven bets tracked, I believe. Yes, I did them all right. I don't know how I did it. Now we watch them move. Oh, and
Yeah.
now they all locked. They all
Did
locked.
they?
Yeah, all the top tens locked.
No
Oh
freaking
baby.
way.
Yeah.
That cracks
Well,
me
that's
up.
why I bet first and then track,
Right.
right? Because I want to get if I start tracking, they're just gonna lock because people will see them. Oh, so dumb. But yep, we both saw him live here in Stacking Dennys. I don't have any other thing to say about that, but you know, everything's locked now.
That was quick. They normally don't lock them that quick. It's usually a couple more minutes after
Yeah.
that. Fun stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, great. Thank you. Shout out FanDuel for awesome odds opening for top tens there for Talladega. Um, and yeah, like you said, we need what, two to hit to profit.
Yep.
Gives you something to sweat. That's what I like.
Exactly. Exactly. To profit. One of the longer ones, like if we hit like a Harrison Burton and one of the others, would profit pretty big. If we hit three, it's like, oh baby.
There we go.
Mm. Gotta get one more beer crack in there. But I mean, so like our preview of Talladega is it's a super speedway race. Like there could be a big one. There'll be randomness. DFS, well, you always want to try to go a little contrarian compared to where you think ownerships are going to be. It's the same spiel we give every time at this point. Don't
Yes.
start too many forward. The big difference between Talladega and like the Daytona 500 is qualifying. The shit boxes will probably still be starting in the back, like, and probably taking up all of the back. You won't have as many like good drivers starting way in the back, so it changes things. Instead of being like, I need 3 or 4 drivers starting in the 30s, I need 2 or 3 maybe, or even one, depending on how things shake out with qualifying.
One thing to note here: last six Talladega races have produced six different winners. Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, and Ryan Blaney,
Mm-hmm.
all with a win over the last six. They all also have finishes outside of the top 20. So just to give you, for people that don't really understand this sport or are new, nobody performs well every single time at these racetracks. Best average finish for a driver with more than two starts at this track, Chase Elliott with 14.2, which that's actually pretty solid for a super speedway race. 7 top 10s in 14 career starts, 2 wins, 5 top 5s. Did not realize that Elliott's stats were. I mean, those are pretty solid for
Yeah.
a super speedway race. But Keselowski, 6-time winner at this racetrack. Joey Logano's won 3 times here. Hamlin twice, Blaney twice, and like I said before, Chase Elliott twice. Um, as far as I didn't even look at what are Keselowski's odds.
That's a good question. I didn't either. 15 at FanDuel.
15. No,
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
not looking at
He
that.
was he was
What
25, I think, at one point for the Daytona 500 one book, and most he was 20 though, I think.
one guy that another one that kind of sticks out to me, and let me make sure I'm not talking out of my ass here because I feel like he's been pretty solid. And another caveat here: track history does not matter at Talladega. It's kind of just something like I cannot, as me as a content provider for NASCAR um, race weekends, I cannot like just say, oh, it's a gut feeling on this guy. Like I always need to put numbers into it and explain it that way. But Kevin Harvick is a guy that I really like how he's running this year, and I really like he's been solid at Talladega. 3 top 10s the last 4 races here. He won here back in 2010. I just feel like I, I got a gut feeling that this guy's going to win soon. He is available at 30 to 1 at DraftKings. I don't hate that one either. I don't hate betting Bubba 20 to 1. I don't hate betting Harvick 30 to 1. If I'm going to bet anybody outright, it's going to be those two. I have
Kevin
not
Harvick
bet
is
anything yet.
Circa just dropped. Kevin Harvick is
Circa
34 to
just
1.
dropped.
Kevin Harvick's 34 to 1. Eric Almirola is 34 to 1. I love that. And Bubba Wallace is 25 to 1 there.
Oh, yeah. I would jump at that if I could.
Yeah, I gotta get Bub. I'll be getting Bub at 25 at Circa. Gonna put that in right now, actually. And then let's see. Truex is 44 to 1. As much I know he's never won a super speedway race, but I don't hate 44 to 1. Circa with very fair odds, I will say that.
So that's always the funny part for me for these super speedway races is like I'll always come in and be like, they're so unpredictable. I don't really like that many lines. And then, as the week goes on, I'm always like, okay, this one looks all right. This one looks all right.
It's
And
fine.
before I
Yeah,
know it,
exactly.
I'm betting 20. I have 20 different bets out there.
Yeah.
Happens
They
every
have
time, every
Austin
single time.
Dillon, Austin Dillon 34, Austin Hill 34, Austin Cindric 30.
Am I missing something on Austin Hill? Why are all these
No,
books
you're
so high
not.
on him?
He's like plus 350 for the Xfinity race, which is stupid. He's super good at these, but I don't see it for a cup race. Like, he wasn't good at the Daytona 500. Did he even make it? I don't
No.
even think if he made it. So, but he was like 60, 70, 80 for the Daytona 500 and he didn't even make it. I don't know. Yeah, no, Circa with really good odds. The favorites, there are 4 co-favorites. They are Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott. They are all 13 to 1 as the favorite. Oh, and Ryan Blaney, 13 to 1. 5 co-favorites at 13 to 1. Which is awesome because DraftKings has 4 drivers at 12 or less. Right?
Hmm.
So, it's a really good job by Circa setting these odds. Caesars has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers at 12 or less. So Circa having 5 co-favorites at 13, they know how to bookmake. Move to a Circa state if you can. Move to a Circa state if you can.
Mm. So we actually just had a question just come in, or us got a DM as we're recording this, and this actually goes very well with what we're discussing right now. Question for Stacking Denny's: can you discuss how the books set up their lines for the weekend? I follow Nick on Action and app with notifications sent to instant, but the lines he gets are always way better than what I have access to. It's 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I just saw both of you put through bets, none of which are available to me here in Colorado at the moment. How can we tell you guys accurately? Here's the thing. A lot of times when Nick and I put in bets and track them, the books take the odds down or they move them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
there's not much we can do about this. Like
There's
at this
there's
point
literally
it's
seconds. I have Discord open right now. I got one of the top 10 bets in for FanDuel locked him. The next person. I got 3. I'm mad FanDuel Pennsylvania didn't have them. And then somebody else said I got 5 of the 7. The other 2 I missed were the colleague cars. Like, these bets are going. People are like you. So the person asking the question, the other people are you. They get the instant notification. They go in. They start betting them. FanDuel realizes a ton of action is coming, and they lock it.
Mhm.
And it's however many you can get in before they're gone. And that's the problem with being so notorious in this industry. Is when we track lines, they move pretty quickly, if not within seconds, within minutes. So it sucks, but that's just the nature of the beast. And we got to
Yeah.
take it. We will always take care of ourselves first and then track. Although I forgot to with the Ty Gibbs bet because I'm a moron and I'm on vacation brain. But by and large, we will bet our thing and then track. And very often, like with Caesars, I know for sure with Caesars, I know when I'm going to like move a line. So I'll try to track and give it 15 seconds and then make my bet so that, I give other people an opportunity to hit the bet themselves. And then hopefully it doesn't move before I bet it. So I just kind of know my book. Like I know if I bet at FanDuel, they're not moving it yet. They move it after I track it. I could bet it, give it 2 hours if nobody else tracks it or whatever, then I'll track it, then it'll move. Like I very much have tested all this stuff. The problem is you were also doing it, so we both wanted to like track them together and bet them together. So we just kind of had to, just deal with what we could. So it's just one of those things. It sucks being a content creator in that regard because as soon as we track a bet, it's the same thing that Sean Kerner has with NFL props. He tracks a bet, it is gone within at most 15, 30 seconds. At most, sometimes quicker. I'm pretty sure FanDuel bugs my account because college basketball action moves off my tracked bets as well, but much more slowly on DraftKings. FanDuel, it's like they get a notification, they move the bet. It's like I think I'm followed in the app by FanDuel. I would honestly believe that.
So I used to think, and I've talked about with this a few of my friends, because like we started noticing it majorly last year that this was happening, and I used to think, oh, maybe it's just coincidence, No, like last week when I bet Blaney and Logano top tens, those closed immediately. And now all of a sudden, both you and I both bet top tens again here. They close immediately. Like this, there's no such thing as coincidences when it's
Yeah.
happening like this. So not to toot our own horns here, but this is just what's happening. So I I don't know how to go around this and to be able to get people enough time to tail us. Um, the only thing we can do is obviously, like you said, we're going to bet it for ourselves and we track it. And if you have notifications, hopefully you get in quick enough and are able to get the lines. But um, it's just the nature of the game, I guess. That's just what it is. But I mean, like if you're listening or if you're watching this podcast, it's clear what's happening, and I mean, I think it's kind of cool, but at the same time, I do wish more people could get on these lines.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I just don't know. I just don't know unless we have like a, get people to sign up for a giant text thread like, hey, but even then, their systems would mark when all that action was coming in. So
Yep. Yeah, so it's just one of those things. It's like when things happen, the things happen. And there's nothing we can do about it. There's literally nothing we can do about it. We're going to bet it. We're going to take care of ourselves first. Then we're going to track it. And then they're going to move. And then it's done. Those lines are gone.
mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
yep. And as we have experienced 3 or 4 times this year while recording Stacking Dennys, lines we like have dropped. So we're not doing a live show, but I think it's important that there's a very good opportunity or chance, I should say, that we'll be tracking or betting some lines at midnight Eastern on Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday, night to morning, or 12:30, just half an hour after midnight, Tuesday to Wednesday Eastern, because it's crossing that day threshold or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where the notifications are going to start going off, and that's simply because that's when FanDuel's dropping them. And if FanDuel's dropping them and we like them, we're betting. And we're not waiting until the morning to give everybody a chance because they could be gone by the time we wake up if somebody else who's sharp, Greg Mathern, these garage guys, some of these other sharp NASCAR bettors, if they see it and they like it, Jim Sonis, anybody, Ryan Stevens, Derek Yoder, all them, if they see it and they tweet it out, they track it. A lot of them are in the Action app. Those are gonna move. So we're not competing with them. We're all trying to win together. But the problem is we can't go to bed, wake up 8 hours later, and see the lines have moved if we see them that night of. Just because we're trying to help you all win. That hurts us. That hurts our bottom line. That hurts what we do, taking care of ourselves. So it's unfortunate. It sucks. It's just the reality of it, though. 100% just the reality of it.
I hate to say this. I'm tailing you on Ty Gibbs, top Toyota.
Oh, baby.
Betfred has it at 14.
Yeah, you got to take that. I don't know who Fred is, but you got to take that.
And confirm placing bet placed successfully. I am now
Blet
on Ty
Fred.
Gibbs top Toyota. Don't love it, but yeah, I'm with you. You gotta take that. Just like
Yeah,
we
you do.
always say, like Bubba Wallace, top Toyota plus 100 last year. Couldn't pass it up.
If you're watching YouTube, I'm like playing with my lips. I bit the shit out of it earlier today, and it's just like killing me. So like even talking hurts.
Um, yeah. So we'll get to our picks and everything here now.
I have not made my random fantasy pick, by the way.
Ooh,
So it would be a live one.
I don't think I've made mine either.
Nice. Then I have to make mine first, so you can tail me,
Yep.
like, or get my influencer thing or whatever. Click my link and all right. I'm gonna do my random fantasy Talladega pick. All right, what do you think it is, Jordan?
Um, I'm gonna go Harrison Burton. Random, random.
I got the guy who won this past week.
Larson?
Yes, I got Kyle Larson, which
Arguably his worst racetrack or type of racetrack.
I will say, yeah, but so was Martinsville was one of his worst tracks, but I feel like so. I'm not naming names. I'm not arguing with people. I'm not saying you have bad reasoning. I do see people that were like, I wouldn't have bet him at 12-1 or 14-1 or 15-1 because he's not good here. And I'm like, no, he used to not be good here at Martinsville. He has gotten good at Martinsville. And I bet him 10-1 midweek. I tracked Kyle Larson 10-1 midweek at Circa. So I won 10 units on Kyle Larson at Circa. In addition to my Kyle Kirkwood bet. So it was a good day to be Kyle. Unless you're Kyle Busch, I guess. But right, so I tracked Kyle Larson for Martinsville, and that was really good because he won. And I thought those odds were too long based off the kind of year he has had, based off the kind of year he's had at the short flats. Right, if we look at the short flats, I mean, dude kicked some fucking ass at the short flats. He's absolutely kicked ass at the short flats this year. So obviously he won Martinsville, but we didn't know that going in. But at Phoenix, he finished fourth, arguably had the car or a car to win, and he won at Richmond. So we know, and those are like results that he doesn't always post at Richmond and Phoenix. Now, we know he has won at both of those before, but those are very good results, and he's just kicked ass pretty much everywhere this year. Like you said, he could have 4 wins this year. So then throw it into the fact that he has gotten much better at Martinsville. He ran and finished second last year, led 68 laps, 41 fastest laps. He led 2 races prior to that, 77 laps with 34 fastest laps, finished 14th, but that was unflattering. He had a top 5 as well in his maiden Martinsville Hendrick race. Finished third with Ganassi back in 2016, which was a low downforce race. So this guy can get it done at Martinsville. We've seen 3 top, if we just look at low downforce Martinsville races. So that would be 16 to 18. 2020 was COVID year that he was suspended. So 21 and 23. If we just look at those, Kyle Larson has a 3rd and a 5th, and now with this, a win in 9 starts, yeah. So pretty damn good for Kyle Larson. If we include 2022, which was last year because of the same car, he has now 4 top 5 finishes in 10 starts, a 40% top 5 rate. That's pretty good. I would say he's good at Martinsville. I would say he's good at Martinsville, low downforce.
So, like, my algorithm predicted finishing order post this last week. There were 2 guys that, additionally, the eye test didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought it was overvaluing them. One was Kevin Harvick, which he obviously had an amazing car. And another one was Kyle Larson, just because like I think it's set in my head that he's not amazing at Martinsville, but it had it right. It had him right up there. It had him sixth overall, but super close, to that top three. So, yeah, definitely.
I had Larson first in odds to win. I legitimately had Larson first in odds to win. I think Jim Sonis had him maybe second, definitely top two. I know Chris Pinnell had him first or second, and I think NASCAR Probs had him first or second. So the guys like, and you had him, like you said, top, what was it, 3 or 4?
He was six, but like could have
Oh,
been.
six.
The numbers were right there to be. It was basically like throw a sheet over top. Top six.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was saying early week for Martinsville. Yeah, NASCAR Probs had Larson second. So a lot of statistical models had him first or second. Your algorithm had him sixth. But that was your algorithm predicted finishing order after practice and qualifying, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think midweek it probably would have been higher because I know after practice and qualifying everybody's model dropped on him. But I had a midweek bet, so midweek at 10-1. Thought that was really good, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just Larson 10-1 seemed too long, so I had to bet it and hit that. But
Yeah.
he's
Kind of kicking myself for not betting it, but we'll have that.
he's won 2 of the 3 short flat track races this year, and he arguably could have won that third at Phoenix. Harvick probably had the best car at the end there, but Larson had the best car for the first 2/3 of the race.
Yeah. Yep. Something to keep an eye on. Talking about championship. He's
The
gonna be tough to
trains,
beat.
the trains,
Trans.
short flats. Kyle Larson.
Pick to win this week. Who you got? So, by the way, my random
I was
fantasy
gonna say,
racer for this second week in a row, Chase Elliott.
oh
So my
wow,
last 3 random fantasy racing picks have been Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson.
yo, we rolling with the
So
Hendrick boys.
I'm getting some solid picks here, but uh, not getting amazing results. I finally got another top 10 though at Martinsville with Chase. So um,
I
two
just
top
have to
tens in the last 3
say,
races.
so Ty Dillon was dock blocked. He finished 32nd, but he didn't go to jail. So
uh,
probably in line with expectations. I don't necessarily think I blocked him this week.
Going before we get to our picks, random fantasy racing. There are now 2 people in the top 7 that have missed one race this year and are still in the top 7 in points.
That's insane.
That's just ridiculous.
And weren't we saying the person racing life last week? Had the 41 car, dude.
Who?
They had a potentially race-winning car in Priest before the speeding penalty. Like, they got
Wow,
bad luck by having Ryan Priest finish 15th.
They have Cindric picked for Talladega. I feel
That's
like
pretty
I
good
need to
too,
bet Cindric
honestly.
right now.
If you get Cindric, yeah, if you get Cindric, you want to get him at a road course at Talladega or Daytona,
Yeah.
pretty much. That's a good get there. Like, if you're going to get Cindric, you're getting him at one of his better spots.
Let's see if the other person with a missed start has made their pick for Talladega yet. Yep, they have Byron with another good pick.
Mm-hmm.
Another solid choice there.
Yeah, I got Kyle Larson in
Wild.
a spot you definitely don't want to get Kyle Larson. So he's honestly, based how my year has gone, he'll probably win Talladega. I got a win with Kyle Larson earlier this year, so I've broken the only one win ever curse. Now have more career wins than Daniel Hemrick. I now have more career wins than Matt DiBenedetto. So we're doing well in that department. So maybe this is the week Kyle Larson wins. I don't know. What are Kyle Larson's odds? Like, why is he whatever the hell he is at super speedways every time we come to them? 16-1 at FanDuel. Why? He should be 25-1 at best.
Uh, Random Fantasy Racing Underdog Cup. Remember the guy that was in last place last week?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, wow, like like he has a 28-point lead on second place. He had the 42, which would be Gregson, who finished 30th. So just another
Wow.
abysmal. This guy
Yeah,
has not picked anyone. His best finish is 28, and it was McDowell in the Daytona 500.
that's insane. Holy crap. Like, that is a monstrous lead.
Like I'm gonna
Um,
follow this person just to put
yeah, I'm going to do the same thing.
just to put notifications on for when he gets the
Random fantasy pick. So we could
yes.
fade them. They have not made their they've not made their pick yet for Talladega.
They need to do that. We need to get him on the show.
Yes,
How are you?
that's what we need to
How are you?
do.
How are you so bad at this?
How are you worse than RotoDoc at this? Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, no, they finished 30th with the 42 of Noah Gregson. And Martinsville's supposed to be a good track for Noah Gregson. That's when you know it's bad, when Noah Gregson finishes 30th at Martinsville. I understand he's a rookie and he's in Cup, but he finished 30th. That means Legacy is they're not shitbox, but they're definitely bottom mid tier. Like lower mid tier at this point. Like you have to consider Legacy just lower mid tier at this point.
And that's not being dramatic or anything like that. That's where they are at right now, and it's not getting
Mm-hmm.
better. Like they're not showing any signs of improvement. If anything, I'd say they're showing a little bit worse. And that's really interesting. I think this week, with Talladega, because Eric Jones is really good at Talladega.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go off of recent performance and how much that plays into your picks here at Talladega, Eric Jones is going to be a popular pick this week because with his track record recently, and I'm assuming like with how Legacy is struggling this year that he's not going to qualify very well. He's going to be a very very popular pick in DFS. Could be a fade situation there, if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And looking at Eric Jones at Daytona, he finished 37th, which obviously finishes whatever. But his percentage of laps in the top 15 was, and let me pull it up here, for super speedways, he had 48% of the laps in the top 15. Last year, if we include Atlanta, his lowest was 68%. Oh, sorry, 65%. So he had 48%. If we remove it, oh no, I take that back. There was a 60 at Atlanta. But if we remove it, his lowest was 65. So he had 48%. And then Atlanta this year, 8% of laps in the top 15, whereas last year it was 60 and 78%. So a marked drop off and super speedway performance this year to last year, at both Daytona and Atlanta. Just a significant drop off. So
Yeah, you look
you're
at the
right.
two,
He becomes an interesting fade candidate at that point.
and I'll probably eat my words. Like obviously these races are very great equalizers, but I just feel like that's one guy going into this race weekend I can definitely see being completely overvalued because you look at the two Talladega races last year. He was a legitimate contender to win. He led over
Mm-hmm.
20 laps in both those races. He finished sixth each time. Everybody's going to be like a lot of people are going to be talking about Eric Jones this weekend, and rightfully so. Like he has five top tens in the last six Talladega races. Like he's always been really good here. Um, but if that car's not there, that's something to keep in the back of your head. Is if he, let's say he goes out and with how they're running right now, he qualifies 32nd. He's
Yep.
going to be 40% owned on DraftKings.
Now, I
35,
will say
40% owned.
this. I will say this. We look at 2021, so before the next gen car, the last year of the Gen 6 car. If we look at Daytona, he ran 23 and 12% of laps in the top 15, which is worse than he ran at Daytona this year by a good chunk. So while he's not at last year's levels, he's not at 2021 levels of Legacy Motors Club bad at super speedways. Now, we didn't have Atlanta back then, so it's hard to compare. So it seems like he's definitely dropped off at the super speedways. The question is, how much? Was that 48% he had at Daytona earlier this year his peak? What is his median? What is his floor? It's tough to say. So we're not quite there in a sample size, but it was definitely better than both Daytona races in 2021. So we need to at least say he's not 2021 levels of bad at Daytona. Now at Talladega in 2021, he was better than Daytona. If we look just at Talladega, he averaged 46.4% of laps in top 15. 46.4. At Daytona, it was 35.2, so more than a 10% drop off. Now, if we go to 2022, just Daytona and Talladega, once again, Talladega, much better. 92% average top 15%. Daytona, 66.8 average percent. So if we're going to fade Eric Jones, it probably should be at the next Daytona race, which all hell will break loose anyway, so it's not necessarily a good spot to fade. But Talladega is probably the better spot to be on Eric Jones just based off of his trains with Legacy Motor Club. And they've been consistent year after year. All four of his Talladega races were higher than all four of his Daytona races when you stay within the year. So his two Talladega races were higher than his two Daytona races in 2021. His two Talladega races were higher than his two Daytona races in 2022. So again, his worst Dega was better than his best Daytona each year.
Yeah, that's good analysis, and then see that's another thing I love looking at the trans and everything with Daytona and Talladega, but then like at the end of the race weekend and it's all just a complete shit show. It's like I spent so much time looking up this stuff and trying to analyze it that it's such a waste of time. Like
it is.
It's a double-edged sword, but as far as picks to win, so you got Larson, I have Elliott. When it comes to random fantasy racing, who's your pick to win Talladega on Sunday? You got a hat or a dartboard to pick a name out of or throw a dart at?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kyle. I'm going to stay on the Kyle train. Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch. He looked good at Daytona. He looked real good.
He did. Don't remind me. He should have won a stage. I had that bet.
Yep. Well, we had the two stage winner bet at least.
Hopefully we get some odds like that. Some good stage odds. I'll bet those.
Did they give us that this time? We didn't even look. Did they give us the no 2+ stage bet? They did not. FanDuel did not.
No.
Yeah, I think we permanently broke the FanDuel top 10s. They're still locked.
Still locked. That's awesome. Man.
This is what it is.
Guess who I'm picking to win this race?
I have no fucking clue, so I'm just gonna say I'm just looking at the board here. I'm just gonna say Kevin Harvick.
Eric Jones.
Wow.
Just to randomly throw something out there.
I love it.
I love it. Him for so long, I'm gonna say he wins this.
That's funny. Race. That's funny. Well done.
That's how much who knows? I
don't care about picking this race. Yeah.
Nope.
Exactly.
I will note I'm on a like as far as my pick to win, they finished between 13th and 16th and my last 5 picks after I started the season on a pretty hot streak. So
yeah.
We'll get there. But you're on a pretty hot streak right now with your picks. 7th or better in 5 of the last 6, including that power win at Bristol Dirt. So we're both at 1 win right now.
Yeah.
I have 4 top 5s. You have 4 top 5s. So
average finish probably similar.
Yeah. My average finish is 10th, and your average finish is 12.3. So
that's pretty close there.
And that's including Daytona and Atlanta, so which were both super speedways. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think
Alrighty.
that's gonna wrap up this episode. Man, we went for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Shit.
We had some things to talk about with Kyle Kirkwood and Stacking Dennys,
That's
sponsor.
true. That's true.
So, remove
Yeah.
that as probably a sub 2 hour show, but and then sitting there tracking bets for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um,
It is
I
what it is.
I wish I would have marked down when the time stamps for that in case anybody wants to fast forward it, but I forgot.
Oh
But
yeah.
we're talking Dover next weekend, which I always like Dover. Dover's like, I don't
Dover's
know.
fun. It's
It's
fun.
always been one of my favorite tracks. I don't know why. And they randomly have an earlier start. They have a 2 p.m. start for Dover
Dude,
next week.
we're in the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. hotbed between Talladega, he's good at super
Yep.
speedways, Dover, and he's not bad at places like Kansas. So we could see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. hanging out inside the. I know he has a win, so it doesn't really matter, but we could still see him hanging out inside the top 13 in points even 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, and then we
Last year he finished
after
eighth at Darlington, the first Darlington race. So, we're literally hitting. And then he finished, he finished eighth at Kansas last year, eighth at Darlington, second at Dover, seventh at Charlotte, and obviously Talladega he crashed out, but it's typically a good track for him. We're literally in the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. hot streak here, where last year he had 4 out of 5 top 8 finishes, and the one he didn't was Talladega, where we know he can win. So,
yeah.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., if he repeats that last year, he might be in the top 10 after Charlotte in the standings. And I'm not joking.
That's just crazy to think about. But
Yeah.
yeah, Talladega this weekend, GEICO 500, 188 laps. Hopefully there's no rain. I haven't looked at the forecast, but we get another race on actual Fox, so viewership numbers should be pretty decent this week. We won't get another one on Fox till the Coca-Cola 600 in late May.
Yeah.
So good luck if you're betting this weekend. If you're playing DFS, be sure to check out our
play
content
DFS.
on that. This is always a very good strategy, and always listen
Yes,
to
it is.
RotoDoc on this.
Yeah, I'll
One
be
of the
back to
best
full content
at
this
super
week.
speedways.
I'm back full content this week on NASCAR NASCAR for Action Network. So we're full go.
Perfect. All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Go Kyle Kirkwood.
Go Kirkwood. Perfect. All right. See you guys. Good luck this weekend.